Light and L are two of the smartest fictional characters. Their logical reasoning and ability to understand complex situations far surpasses almost anyone we've ever seen. But what would happen if they faced each other in a game of chess? In this video, I'll try to answer that question. Let's consider this. Light and L, both at their prime, are given 1 full year to learn the game of chess. They would do everything they can to become the best at it. So how good would they be after a year? Obviously, that question can't be answered with complete accuracy. We just don't know. But here's a reasonable explanation. In 1 week, they would learn the rules, basic tactics, and gain a surface-level understanding of the game. Nothing too special, just picking up key components and fundamentals. Now, here's what I think. After 1 month, they would start to improve at an exponential rate, far faster than a normal human. From Death Note, we know that they can assess nearly any situation with near-perfect logic. And while chess is a dynamic game with no fixed right moves, they would still uncover core principles very quickly. Some of those insights might be, they'd figure out that memorizing openings isn't enough. Understanding why those moves work is more valuable. They'd break down core ideas like center control, piece activity, and king safety. They'd grasp positional play quickly, recognizing how small advantages like pawn structure or piece activity can decide a game over time. These are things most people wouldn't even notice after a month of playing, but Light and L would. Of course, in that first week, they'd also learn the basics, like back rank safety, king safety, endgame value, passed pawns, and the king's box rule. All they'd need is to see a few examples, and they'd reason out the ideas on their own. Now, after that first month, they would need to keep practicing and playing consistently for their intuition to really kick in. Chess at a high level is incredibly intuitive. Magnus Carlsen himself stated that best moves just comes in his mind and he doesn't know how or why. So, Light and L would keep learning, understanding, and playing over and over. And by the 6-month mark, I think a realistic rating for both of them, using chess.com's rating system, would be 2,000. Let me explain why. One of the main reasons is that I believe they would almost never make a straight blunder or fall for simple tactics that give their opponent an advantage. On chess.com, players rated up to around 1,500 often hang pieces and make silly mistakes, but Light and L would surpass that level pretty quickly. With continued practice and developing more of that intuitive understanding of chess, I believe they could reach 2,000, which is about 500 points above average. That jump is supported by the following observations. From the anime, we know both Light and L can reason things out very quickly, especially Light. When it comes to short-term plans and quick thinking, I think Light has a slight edge over L. He constantly had to give perfect, on-the-spot answers to L's questions and make huge decisions in very little time. Because of this, I think Light would perform well under time pressure and be great at putting psychological pressure on his opponent. That said, Light is also slightly more prone to mistakes than L. His cunning and improvisation are unmatched, but he may sometimes miscalculate or take risks. On the other hand, L would focus more on principled logical play, making sound decisions based on reason and structure. The only situations where I think L might lose or struggle are when the best move is extremely complex and requires a lot of time to figure out, or when the best move is very counterintuitive. Since L is highly logical, he may be more likely to disregard unusual moves at first. But of course, as L learns and plays more, he would recognize that limitation and work to overcome it. Likewise, Light would learn from his losses and become more aware of his own weaknesses. And that's how I think they could realistically reach a 2,000 rating. Now, after another 6 months, here's what's likely to happen. Once they reach a 2,000 ELO rating, chess improvement becomes much more difficult. At that level, progress isn't about surface-level tactics or memorizing openings anymore. Instead, growth slows significantly because it relies more on deep positional understanding, nuanced strategies, and advanced calculation skills. However, Light and L would improve differently. They would develop deeper pattern recognition, quickly identifying advanced positional ideas and strategic themes like subtle weaknesses, piece coordination, and prophylaxis. Things most players only pick up after thousands of games. Their ability to calculate multiple complex variations would also improve dramatically. They'd intuitively discard weaker lines and focus only on the most promising ones. And most importantly, their memory and intellect are unmatched. They would memorize, assess, and fully understand a wide range of endgame strategies and patterns. I believe the area where they would truly excel is the endgame. Especially L, thanks to his unparalleled calculation ability and logical reasoning. Now, after one full year, I think their elo could reach around 2700. Yes, this might seem like an exaggeration, but here's why I believe it's possible. They would be extremely unlikely to make mistakes. While they might not win as often as expected, and may draw frequently, what can be almost guaranteed is that they would lose very, very few games. They would sense danger in a position much faster than their opponents. Their ability to recognize threats, calculate variations, and avoid pitfalls would make them incredibly difficult to beat, even for top-level players. So, to replicate their battle, I used a chess engine within a configurable chess software. I adjusted the engine's parameters to reflect the personalities and thinking styles of Light and L, allowing the engine to play in a way that represents how they might approach the game. Although it is impossible to do that accurately, I tried my best to make it realistic. I scouted for chess bots with the most amount of configurations, and I found one named Fruit. Fruit is a chess engine with an approximate elo of 2,786. Obviously, I cannot choose Stockfish or Leela, because that would be way above their level, so the closest thing I found was this Fruit engine. Okay, first, I chose a semi-aggressive playstyle. Light's approach often involves calculated risk-taking, always pushing for advantages without being reckless. I set a higher contempt factor of 20, meaning the engine favors winning and avoids draws, mirroring Light's ambitious, somewhat arrogant nature. But 20 is, I think, the amount which is just enough. Going slightly more could affect the strength of the engine. I slightly increased the values for queens and rooks, emphasizing direct power and tactical dominance, much like Light's tendency to assert direct control. I enabled search focus, which means the engine evaluates fewer but stronger lines deeply, just as Light focuses intensely on the most promising strategies. The engine was also set to consider the top 3 candidate moves for more time, which is the multi-PV value set at 3, which aligns with Light's ability to quickly weigh multiple good options simultaneously. I also adjusted the engine to balance attack and defense, so I very slightly increased the king's safety and controlled aggression. I also changed few parameters that improve his positional play and endgame strength. Lastly, I made a few final tweaks to keep the setup balanced and controlled. Now, let's talk about L's parameters. I gave L a normal playstyle, not overly aggressive or defensive. I also set his contempt factor to 1. For context, most engines use a default contempt of 0, which means they evaluate the position objectively. Raising it to 1 means to try to win 0.1% more than how it normally would in a neutral position. I set king safety to 21, focus depth to 3, and enabled the use of PPP to prioritize subtle positional factors, like pawn structure and rook coordination. Lastly, I tweaked a few things here and there, which I felt made sense for L to have, and that's it. After setting the parameters, I started a trial game to test for balance and make sure nothing was too off. In that test game, L had a clear advantage in the middle game, but it wasn't a complete blowout. It was still competitive. The engine crashed mid-game. I fixed that and also made a few more parameter tweaks to fine-tune their strengths based on the game I saw before the bot crashed. Now, both engines are ready for the actual battle. The match format is simple. I'll run 1 30-minute games with a 7-second increment, and both engines will be given exactly 20 seconds to think per move. The Fruit engine doesn't have time usage parameter, so they have a fixed thinking of 20 seconds. I will run one more game with a 10-minute base time and 3-second increments, where each engine gets 5 seconds to think for every move. The 30-minute game will show who handles deeper calculation and long-term planning better, while the 10-minute game will highlight faster, intuitive decision-making under tighter time constraints. And then, I made them play. The first game is the 30-minute game, where L plays as white and Light plays as black. Here we go. The game starts with knight c3 and d5, which is known as the Van Geet opening. The best response here is d4, which would transpose the game into a queen's pawn structure, one of the most common and well-studied openings. And L does play d4. Now the most common move for black is knight to f6. Instead, Light plays bishop f5, and L responds with knight f3. Light continues with e6, and L plays bishop f4, which is the most optimal move in this position. After that, the game follows with knight c6, e3, and bishop b4. Now here, L makes a slight inaccuracy, at least according to Stockfish. The best move would have been bishop to d3, which challenges Light's bishop on f5. That's a common idea in many openings. But instead, L plays bishop to b5 check, and then back to bishop d3. We can only guess what L was thinking here, but practically, this gave Light a free developing move. He played knight d7. Light then takes the knight on c3, and L recaptures. Light follows with knight e4, not the best move, but still reasonable. L finds the best continuation, with queen b1, threatening the b7 pawn. If Light had tried to capture the c3 pawn, L could simply recapture with a clear plan. Light defends with the move b6, and L continues with queen to b2, guarding the c3 pawn. At this point, the engine evaluates the position as completely even. Now, Light plays a bold move, g5, which looks like the beginning of an aggressive kingside attack. L moves his bishop back, and Light continues with h5, which, surprisingly, is considered the best move by the engine. Despite this, the engine gives a slight edge to L, but only if he finds the precise responses. The only move that maintains the advantage is h4. Let's see if L finds it. Nope, he plays the second best move, knight to e5. Light captures the knight, and L recaptures with the bishop. Now Light holds a small advantage, and L has to be careful. Light pressures L's bishop, and L correctly counters by attacking Light's knight with f3. Light retreats, not the most accurate move, but still okay, and L captures the knight. Light recaptures with the queen, and both players castle kingside. Then, L challenges the center with c4. Light first trades off bishops and then captures the pawn on c4. L recaptures, and the engine gives L a plus 0.3 advantage. This is mostly because Light castled kingside earlier, when queenside castling would have been better. Now Light plays e5, and L captures the pawn. Instead of recapturing immediately, Light shifts his focus and targets the f3 pawn. A questionable decision. L captures another pawn, and Light quickly recaptures with check. After the sequence, L still holds a slight edge. At this point, L offers a queen trade, looking to go into an endgame. And it makes sense, endgames rely more on precise calculation than intuition, which is exactly where L excels. He has a safer king and more active rooks, so this is a favorable position for him. Light realizes this and declines the trade, continuing instead with c6, then c5, and later b5. L responds with a check. Now Light accepts the queen trade. And now we're in an endgame. Light plays king g7, which is the best move. If he had played any rook to c8, L could have just checked and taken the pawn. Instead, Light gives up the pawn, probably recognizing that it was already lost. Now, Light plays rook to c8. L declines the trade and goes rook to a6, giving up the pawn for more pressure and activity, and continues with rook b1, which is a slight inaccuracy. Light could now play rook a to c8 to force a trade, simplifying to a more drawable one-rook endgame. Instead, Light plays king e7. L plays h3. Note: I have decided to hide the evaluation bar from this move to make the game more interesting. And Light replies with g4, leading to a sequence of exchanges. Now L is up a pawn, and it's doubled, so it's not decisive yet. Light plays king f7, and L finds the only good continuation. Rook f1 check. Light moves the king to g7. Now L finds the only move that keeps his advantage. Rook f5. Light checks L's king. King h2. And Light plays b4, which is a mistake. Here L plays rook to g5 check. King f7 by Light, and L moves his rook to b5, which creates some mate threats while attacking the undefended pawn on b5. Light sees the threats and plays rook to c7. L captures another pawn. Now he's up 2 pawns, and it's just a matter of technique from here. After L went up 2 pawns, the game entered a phase of checks and shuffling. Light played rook to e8, followed by rook to b5 from L. Then came king to f8 by Light. L played rook to f5 check. Light responds with king to g7, rook to g5 check, king to f7, and rook to a3. Light stepped up with king to f6, and L brought the rook to a5. Light checked the king from the corner, and L responded with rook to g3, which is marked as an inaccuracy by low-depth stockfish, but is actually fine. Light gave another check with rook to c3, and L played king to f2. Later, L plays a4, which is labeled as a mistake, but deeper analysis shows it's not so bad. Light tries to go after the pawn with rook to g3, but L checks and defends it. From here, all L needs to do is carefully trade down and convert the endgame. He grabs another pawn. Light grabs one back. From here, both sides kept shuffling their rooks and trading checks, neither rushing into anything. I won't be breaking down every move here, because this phase is all about clean technique and precise calculation. Then, at a crucial moment, L gave up a pawn. It was the best continuation according to the engine, quietly leading to a clearly winning position within the next few moves. Light takes the pawn, and L takes a rook. Light recaptures, and L gives a crucial check, the only move that keeps the advantage. Light can't move his king up, or else L trades and pushes the passed pawn. So Light goes king b3, but now he's cut off, and it's an easy win for L. He promotes his pawn to a queen, and the rest is smooth. L wins game 1. So, talking about the game was relatively close. Light didn't have a massive blunder or anything, and the position was somewhat even up to the early endgame. But L kept pressuring, and finding the most precise moves, challenging Light to a game of calculation, and although Light fought pretty well, L won convincingly. To finish it off, I had them play one last game, a 10-minute rapid match, to see who performs better under tighter time constraints. I won't be commentating this one, so just sit back, watch, and enjoy the game. As you can see, Light won this game. Just like in the anime, Light shows a slight edge when it comes to instinct and high-pressure decision-making, and that shows clearly in faster time formats, like this one. He consistently comes up with sharp ideas and solid moves, even with minimal thinking time. While it wasn't a dominant win, The game stayed fairly close. L definitely put up a good fight. But in the end, Light took the win. So after watching both games, one thing is clear. They're almost equal. But if we're being honest, and very precise, L might just be the tiniest bit stronger. Not by much, not in a way that's obvious game to game. But in an ideal scenario, no time pressure, clean position, full focus, L edges it out, barely. Just that small, maybe 2 to 3% advantage that comes from being more stable, more accurate, and a little less likely to crack. I will be doing challenges and tournaments like this more, with more anime characters and other types of chess content which you have never seen before. So consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind.